Welcome to Espresso English. I'm your host, David, and joining me today is our wonderful co-host, Linda. In today's episode, we'll be exploring a topic that is close to many of our hearts: travel and embracing new experiences. We'll share our personal travel adventures, tips, and even some common idioms that you might hear while discussing travel. So, sit back, relax, and get ready to learn some new expressions along the way.
Hello everyone, it's fantastic to have you with us on this journey. Today we'll take you on a virtual tour of various travel experiences. We'll chat about the excitement of hitting the road, the challenges of being in unfamiliar places, and how travel can really broaden your horizons. And remember, if either of us uses a word or idiom that might be tricky, we'll take a moment to explain it.
You know, Linda, there's something about travel that really gets the blood pumping. Just last month, I decided to hit the road and take a spontaneous trip to Italy. I've always believed that travel is the best way to learn about the world and even about ourselves.
That sounds amazing, David. When you say hit the road, you're using an idiom that means to start a journey or to leave a place, right?
Exactly, Linda. Hit the road is a casual way to say we're beginning our journey, and it fits perfectly when you're setting off on an adventure. I realized that sometimes you need to pack your bags and go explore new places, even if it means stepping out of your comfort zone.
Stepping out of your comfort zone is another great phrase. It means trying something new or challenging that might make you a little nervous at first, but ultimately helps you grow.
Absolutely. I remember feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness as I boarded the train to Rome. It was a once-in-a-blue-moon opportunity, something that happens very rarely, making it even more special.
For our listeners, once in a blue moon is an idiom that means something occurs very infrequently. That's a perfect example of how rare opportunities can feel extra precious.
Right you are, Linda. And while on my journey, I also encountered a few bumps in the road. There were moments when things didn't go as planned, and I had to take the bull by the horns, facing challenges head-on.
When you say, take the bull by the horns, it means to confront a problem directly and with determination. It's important to know that sometimes travel can be unpredictable, but these experiences often lead to personal growth.
Exactly. I even found myself lost in a maze-like street in Naples, but that detour turned out to be one of the highlights of my trip. I met some locals, tried amazing food, and even picked up a few Italian phrases along the way.
That's wonderful, David. Sometimes when you get lost, you actually discover hidden treasures. It reminds me of the saying, every cloud has a silver lining, which means that even bad situations can have positive outcomes.
I love that idiom, Linda. Every cloud has a silver lining really sums up how a challenging moment can lead to something unexpectedly beautiful. In Naples, the local market was bustling with energy, and I got to sample some authentic pizza that cost an arm and a leg, but it was worth every penny.
Just to clarify, when you say cost an arm and a leg, you mean that something is very expensive, correct?
Yes, that's right. It means something is costly or overpriced. But, as you said, sometimes the experience is priceless.
Travel isn't just about visiting new places, it's also about meeting new people and learning about different cultures. I remember a time when I was in Japan, and I experienced a culture that was completely different from my own. The kindness of the people and their dedication to traditions really touched my heart.
That sounds like a profound experience, Linda. When you mention touched my heart, it means that something has deeply affected you in an emotional way. It's a gentle way to describe feelings of warmth or affection.
Exactly. In Japan, I had the opportunity to participate in a tea ceremony, which was both intricate and mesmerizing. The ceremony itself was like a carefully choreographed dance, where every movement had a purpose.
That must have been fascinating. When you say intricate, you're describing something that is very detailed and complex, right?
Yes, precisely. And mesmerizing means that it was so interesting and beautiful that I couldn't take my eyes off it. I learned that in many cultures, traditions are passed down from generation to generation, giving people a strong sense of identity and community.
I couldn't agree more. It's like they say, old habits die hard. This idiom means that it can be difficult for people to change their long-standing ways of doing things, even when they encounter new ideas. In many cultures, traditions are deeply rooted in history and everyday life.
For our listeners, old habits die hard means that it's not easy to change behaviors that have been around for a long time. And this is why preserving cultural traditions is so important, even as societies modernize.
Yes, it's a delicate balance between honoring the past and embracing the future. During my time in Italy, I visited ancient ruins that told stories of empires long gone. The history was so vivid that it felt like I was stepping back in time.
When you say stepping back in time, it means experiencing or imagining a period from the past as if you were there. It's a way to describe the feeling of being transported to another era.
Exactly, Linda. And while exploring these historical sites, I learned that travel can also be a powerful tool for education. It teaches us about art, history, and even the resilience of human spirit. As the saying goes, knowledge is power.
That's a classic idiom. Knowledge is power means that learning and education give you the strength and ability to influence your life and the world around you. It's a reminder that every new experience can add to our personal growth.
Right. And it's not just the big historical lessons that matter. Even small interactions can be eye-opening. For instance, chatting with a local vendor in a small market can reveal a lot about the everyday life of a community.
That's so true. These everyday moments help us appreciate the diversity of the world. And sometimes those moments are what we remember the most. It's like the idiom, the little things in life, emphasizing that small, simple pleasures can bring great joy.
I couldn't have said it better. It's the little things, like a warm smile or a friendly conversation, that often leave the deepest impression. And speaking of impressions, I must mention a phrase that always makes me think of travel. To travel is to live.
For our listeners, to travel is to live means that experiencing the world is one of the best ways to truly enjoy life. It's a reminder that life is full of opportunities, and traveling can enrich our existence in many ways.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about some practical travel tips that can make your adventures smoother. One important rule is to always have a backup plan. You never know when things might go south.
When you say go south, it's an idiom meaning that something is failing or not going as planned. It's wise advice because travel can be unpredictable, and having a backup plan can save you from many stressful situations.
Exactly, Linda. Another tip is to pack light. When you're traveling, having too much baggage can really weigh you down, both physically and mentally.
That's right. Weigh you down means to cause you to feel burdened or stressed. By packing only what you need, you can move around more freely and enjoy your trip without extra hassle.
I always try to remember that less is more. It's a phrase that means sometimes having fewer things can lead to a better, more focused experience. And speaking of focusing, it's essential to do your research before visiting a new destination. Knowing the local customs and a few words of the language can go a long way.
When you say go a long way, you mean it can be very helpful or have a great impact. It's amazing how a few local phrases can help break the ice when you meet new people.
Yes, break the ice is a wonderful idiom. It means to do or say something to relieve tension or get a conversation started in an unfamiliar situation. I've found that even a simple greeting can make locals feel appreciated.
And don't forget about technology. Using apps to navigate or translate languages is a real lifesaver. But remember, no matter how advanced technology becomes, nothing beats genuine human interaction.
Absolutely. While technology can help you find your way or connect with others, it's important to step out and engage with people directly. After all, travel is as much about personal connections as it is about visiting landmarks. I once heard someone say, "Travel broadens the mind."
For our listeners, travel broadens the mind means that experiencing different cultures and places can open your eyes to new ideas and ways of thinking. It's a simple but profound truth about the value of exploring the world.
Another thing to keep in mind is the importance of flexibility. Plans might change, and that's okay. It's best to be ready to adapt and enjoy the journey, no matter what twists and turns come your way.
When you say twists and turns, it's an idiom that describes unexpected changes or challenges along the way. It's a reminder that sometimes the unexpected can lead to the most memorable experiences.
Indeed, Linda. I remember one trip where a sudden downpour turned what should have been a perfect day into a challenge. Instead of letting it ruin my plans, I decided to explore a local museum. That change of plans turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Right. A blessing in disguise means that something which seems bad at first ends up having a good result. It's a perfect example of how challenges can lead to surprising benefits.
And that's the beauty of travel. The unpredictability makes every experience unique. When you travel, you learn to go with the flow. Another idiom that means to be flexible and accept things as they come.
For our listeners, go with the flow means to relax and let events happen naturally without trying to control everything. It's a healthy approach that can reduce stress and help you enjoy your travels even more.
Let's now talk about the cultural nuances we experience on our travels. When visiting different countries, it's important to appreciate the customs and traditions that shape people's lives. For instance, in Spain, I found that the pace of life was much more relaxed compared to what I'm used to.
That's interesting, David. When you say the pace of life, you're referring to how quickly or slowly daily activities happen in a place, right?
Yes, exactly. In Spain, people take their time with meals and conversations, which I found refreshing. It was a reminder to slow down and savor each moment. This idea is captured in the idiom, "stop and smell the roses," meaning to take time to appreciate the little joys in life.
For our listeners, stop and smell the roses means to pause and enjoy the pleasant things around you rather than rushing through life. That's a valuable lesson for anyone, especially when traveling.
I also noticed how respectful people are toward traditions in countries like India. There, every festival or ritual holds deep meaning and history. It really showed me that culture isn't just about food or clothing, it's about values, beliefs, and community ties.
When you mention community ties, you're talking about the strong bonds and relationships that people form within their communities. It's another way to describe the sense of belonging and mutual support that cultural traditions can foster.
Exactly. And while exploring these cultural elements, I was reminded of another expression: to keep one's eyes peeled. I found that being alert and observant helped me notice details that I might otherwise have missed.
That's a good one. Keep one's eyes peeled means to be watchful or on the lookout for something. It's an excellent habit to have when you're in a new environment, as it helps you stay safe and informed.
It certainly paid off on my trip. I once wandered through a narrow street in Florence, and I nearly missed a beautiful mural hidden on a side wall. My local friend told me that if you're not paying attention, you might pass by hidden gems without even noticing them.
Hidden gems are those special, often little-known places or experiences that aren't on the typical tourist map. They remind us that the best parts of travel are sometimes found off the beaten path.
Well said, Linda. And sometimes, going off the beaten path means you need to rely on your instincts. I recall an evening when I was invited to a local dinner party. I was initially nervous because I wasn't sure what to expect, but it turned out to be an enriching experience that I'll never forget.
That sounds like a fantastic adventure. It reminds me of the idiom, step out of your comfort zone, which means to do something that might be challenging or unfamiliar, but ultimately rewarding.
Absolutely. Taking that leap of faith allowed me to gain insights into a culture that was completely new to me. I learned that being open-minded can lead to wonderful opportunities and friendships that span across borders.
And that's a perfect segue into another important idea, cultural sensitivity. When interacting with people from different backgrounds, it's crucial to show respect and understanding. Being culturally sensitive means recognizing and honoring the differences that make each culture unique.
Exactly. And by doing so, we not only learn about other cultures, but also about ourselves. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. Each layer reveals something new and adds to our overall understanding.
For our listeners, when I say peeling back the layers of an onion, I mean gradually discovering new details or aspects of something, step by step. It's a beautiful metaphor for personal growth through travel.
Now, let's address some of the challenges you might face while traveling. Sometimes, you might encounter a situation that feels like you're up against a brick wall, meaning you're facing a very difficult problem that seems impossible to solve.
That's a vivid idiom, David. Up against a brick wall means that you feel blocked or unable to move forward because of obstacles. For our listeners, this is a reminder that even though challenges can seem overwhelming at first, there are ways to overcome them.
Exactly. During one of my trips, I got caught in a situation where my plans fell apart because of a sudden change in the weather. I had to change my itinerary on the fly. When I say on the fly, it means to make changes quickly without much time for planning.
Yes, on the fly is an idiom that means doing something quickly and without prior preparation. It's a skill that can come in handy during travel when things don't go as planned.
Another challenge I faced was the language barrier. In many countries, communication can be tough if you don't speak the local language. However, I discovered that a smile and a few basic words can open many doors. Even if you can't have a full conversation, showing that you're trying can make a big difference.
That's a great point, David. And if you ever feel frustrated because of the language barrier, remember the idiom, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. It means that you should try to follow the local customs when you are in a new place.
Yes, when in Rome, do as the Romans do is a wonderful reminder to adapt to local culture. It not only helps you blend in, but also shows respect for the community you're visiting. I learned this firsthand when I took a cooking class in Italy. Even though I wasn't very skilled at first, I embraced the local techniques and ended up having a lot of fun.
That must have been a memorable experience. Cooking classes can be a great way to learn about local culture and traditions. And for our listeners, remember that every mistake is a learning opportunity. There's an idiom for that. Practice makes perfect, which means that the more you do something, the better you will become.
I completely agree. Traveling is not just about sightseeing, it's about learning, growing, and sometimes even failing before you succeed. Every misstep can lead to a valuable lesson. For example, one time I misread a train schedule and ended up waiting for over an hour. Instead of getting upset, I used that time to chat with fellow travelers and learn about their adventures.
That's a great attitude, David. It shows that sometimes a delay or a mistake can be an unexpected bonus, leading you to meet interesting people or discover something new. It's important to be adaptable and have a sense of humor. After all, life isn't always a bed of roses.
Right. A bed of roses is an idiom that means a situation is comfortable and without problems. But the reality is that travel can sometimes be a mixed bag of ups and downs. And that's what makes the journey so enriching.
Exactly. The ups and downs create a full spectrum of experiences. And when you look back on your adventures, you often realize that the challenges were just as important as the triumphs. Each experience, whether good or bad, adds to your personal story.
Before we wrap up today's episode, let's share some more practical tips for making the most of your travels. One key piece of advice is to plan ahead, but also be ready to be spontaneous. It's important to have an itinerary, but also to leave room for unexpected detours.
That's a valuable point. Having a plan gives you direction, but being spontaneous means you're open to new opportunities that arise unexpectedly. Spontaneous is a word that means doing something without premeditation or planning, and it's often the spice of travel.
I often tell travelers to seize the day, another idiom that encourages you to take advantage of every moment. Even if a day doesn't go as planned, remember that each moment holds the possibility for adventure.
For our listeners, seize the day means to make the most of every moment and not let opportunities pass you by. It's a call to action that can inspire you to live life fully, both on your travels and in your everyday routine.
Another tip is to keep a travel journal. Writing down your experiences not only helps you remember the details, but also improves your language skills. It's a simple practice that can have long-term benefits.
Keeping a journal is a great idea. It's like having a personal record of your journey, and it can be a treasure trove of memories later on. Also, don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. Whether it's directions or recommendations, most people are more than willing to lend a hand.
That's so true. I recall an instance when I was trying to find a small cafe in Paris. I was completely lost, but a friendly local not only pointed me in the right direction, but also shared some local insights about the best time to visit. That simple act of kindness made a huge difference in my day.
Acts of kindness like that are the glue that holds the world together. They remind us that even in a big, unfamiliar city, there's always someone willing to help. And that can turn a potentially stressful situation into a heartwarming experience.
I also want to mention the importance of budgeting. Traveling can be expensive, but with careful planning, you can make your money go further. There's an idiom for that as well. Make every penny count.
Yes, make every penny count means to use your money wisely and not waste any resources. Budgeting helps you enjoy your trip without financial stress, and it also encourages you to find creative solutions when challenges arise.
Another aspect of travel that is often overlooked is self-care. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of exploring new places, but it's important to take time for yourself. Whether it's a quiet moment with a cup of coffee or a leisurely walk in a park, self-care keeps you refreshed and ready for more adventures.
That's very important, David. Self-care is all about taking the time to recharge. And speaking of recharging, sometimes you just need to take a breather, which is an idiom that means to pause and relax.
Absolutely. And it's also essential to have realistic expectations. Not every day will be perfect, and sometimes you might feel like you're stuck in a rut. But remember, every experience is a stepping stone to growth.
For our listeners, when I say a stepping stone, I mean a small step that helps you progress towards a larger goal. It's all about taking one step at a time and appreciating the journey.
As we near the end of our episode today, I'd like to reflect on what travel has taught me over the years. Every journey has its highs and lows, its moments of pure joy, and times when you're forced to face reality. But through it all, one thing remains true. Travel is transformative. It changes you in ways you never expected and opens your mind to new perspectives.
That's a beautiful sentiment, David. Travel truly is a transformative experience. It not only teaches us about different cultures, but also helps us understand our own values and beliefs. And sometimes, the most profound lessons come from the simplest experiences: a shared meal, a kind smile, or even a moment of silence while watching a sunset.
I remember a trip where I sat on a quiet beach, watching the waves roll in. The ocean's rhythmic sound made me think about the saying, "Life's a journey, not a destination." It reminds us that the path we travel is as important as the end point.
For our listeners, life's a journey, not a destination, means that the experiences and lessons you gather along the way are more important than the final outcome. It's a great way to encourage people to appreciate every step of their journey, whether literal or metaphorical.
And as we wrap up today's show, I want to encourage you all to step out of your comfort zones. Explore new places, meet new people, and don't be afraid to try something different. Each journey, no matter how small, can change your life for the better.
I completely agree. The world is full of endless possibilities waiting to be discovered. And remember, every adventure begins with a single step. So go out there and make your own stories, one day at a time.
Before we sign off, let's review some of the idioms and expressions we use today, along with their meanings, so our listeners can have a quick recap. Hit the road, to start a journey or leave a place. Once in a blue moon, something that happens very rarely. Take the bull by the horns, to confront a problem directly and with determination. Every cloud has a silver lining. Even bad situations can have positive outcomes. Stepping out of your comfort zone, trying something new or challenging that might be uncomfortable at first. Break the ice, to do or say something to relieve tension or start a conversation. Go with the flow, to be flexible and accept things as they come. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Adapt to the customs of the places you visit. Seize the day. Make the most of every moment. Make every penny count. Use your money wisely. Take a breather, to pause and relax. Life's a journey, not a destination. The experiences along the way are more important than the end result.
That's a great summary, David. I hope our explanations helped clarify these idioms and expressions. Remember, idioms are a fun part of learning English, and using them can really make your language skills sound more natural.
Absolutely, Linda. It's all about practicing and integrating these phrases into everyday conversation. And for anyone out there who is just starting their travel journey, don't worry if you make mistakes along the way. Every error is just another stepping stone toward improvement.
Before we say goodbye, I'd like to share one last piece of advice. Always keep an open mind and heart. Travel is not only about discovering new places, but also about discovering yourself. Let curiosity be your guide, and remember that every experience has something to teach you.
Well said, Linda. And with that, we come to the end of today's episode of Espresso English. Thank you so much to our listeners for joining us on this adventure. We hope you enjoyed our discussion on travel, the idioms we shared, and the personal stories we recounted.
Thank you all for listening. If you have any questions or if there's a particular idiom you'd like us to explain in more detail, feel free to reach out to us on social media or through our website. We love hearing from you and learning together.
Remember, whether you're planning your next big trip or simply exploring your own city, every journey is an opportunity to learn and grow. Keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep your spirit of adventure alive.
That's right, David. And for those of you who are new to Espresso English, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're always excited to share stories, idioms, and travel tips that will help you not only improve your English, but also enrich your life experiences.
Before we sign off, here's one final idiom for the road. All's well that ends well. It means that if the outcome is good, then all the difficulties you faced along the way don't really matter in the end.
For our listeners, all's well that ends well reminds us that a positive ending can make even a challenging journey worthwhile. We truly hope that every trip you take ends on a high note.
Thank you once again for joining us on Espresso English. We've shared tips, idioms, and personal anecdotes today, and we hope that you feel inspired to take on new adventures, both big and small. Until next time, keep your hearts open, your minds curious, and your spirits high.
Goodbye, everyone. Safe travels and happy learning. We can't wait to share our next episode with you. Remember, every journey begins with a single step, and every conversation is a chance to learn something new.
Take care, and see you soon on Espresso English.